Yeah. So one of the things within South Africa is it's a very fast growing economy, and the fast growing economy is not necessarily linked just to a wealthy economy, but it's linked to very basic needs. For example, consumers in South Africa, like the rest of Africa, need to have access to a cell phone device, right? And the cell phone device becomes the essential tool for everything and for communication. It becomes the emergency tool for help. And so this device is something that Africans use to communicate and to have access. And despite the digital divide and the growing inequalities around broadband and data, etc., consumers use this tool the most. And this is a tool that that Apple produces, Samsung produces, Motorola, Nokia, and we rely on these companies. We rely on these companies to make devices that also protect us and secure our needs. And so therefore, I think there particular brands that we rely on, particularly from the US, in this regard. And we know also that a lot of our own consumption around films, the consumption of so many television series and televisions, etc. All of these, the production of knowledge and how it transmits through these devices is what Africans rely on. And so I think that multinational corporations can give back to these consumers by also making these kinds of products much more affordable to people, making it more accessible to people. It's how we document our violations. It's how we transmit information regarding violations. And so there's a deep linkage between the consumption of knowledge and the production of knowledge and the transmission of knowledge through these devices. And so Iranti, as a documentation organization, particularly encourages people to use these devices, and we know it's incredibly costly. Sometimes people make negotiations around data versus food, because sometimes data, it becomes so essential just for your friends to know that you're safely home or that you're okay. And so we really need to think about these products not just as trending products, but products that are essential to our very basic protections of our humanity, of our mobility, and so on. And so I think that companies need to think about that much more, that we cannot pay for an iPhone as the same as somebody that lives in New York. It's just not okay or possible. And sometimes as Africans, we pay much more than somebody that's based in the US. And so what is the responsibility of these multinational corporations to ensure that Africans have access to knowledge, have access to information, and to transmitting, information? And so there are a number of issues around that I think multinational corporations can really assist and be much more progressive in their thinking around the costing, the pricing, the dissemination of these products. We certainly love them. We find them useful, but at times it's bred over data, and it really comes down to some of those essentials. And I think that's where multinationals really need to think about what is their responsibility, and when do profits really profit over some of the things that we as activists can do. And so I think there could be ways of making these devices much more affordable, allowing greater access and communicating that expressed, commitment from these corporations towards ensuring greater communication, particularly among young activists, how these tools are being used, how they should be encouraged to be used.
That's really fascinating. And no, that's great. I wonder if you could maybe just one more time, maybe kind of in a shorter discussion, sort of talk about what corporations could do to really kind of provide technology to the LGBTI community, and what the community could do with that.
Right. So technology is really a space of inequality where In Northern Hemispheric countries, you have spaces to Wi-Fi, hotspots, and a commitment from the government to provide these spaces. Whereas in Africa, it's a profitable space for corporations, and it's not really about citizens and having access to information or data. So this is something that I think that corporations can really assist NGOs with, either by providing them with subsidized, devices, thinking about providing subsidized data packages, etc. Because, when your data and your money gets linked to how much information you can transmit, you are really denying somebody the right to information. You're denying somebody the right to be an activist. So somebody in Africa may not be able to read a comprehensive PDF document because it's just too costly to download the document. Whereas another person in another country can easily do that and have much more greater access to that knowledge. And so we have to narrow the gap in how digital technologies are depriving people and how they're increasing that inequality. And I think we can actually make a shift in that and encourage greater media participation, greater participation on social media platforms, etc. Because people are not only not participating because of fear, they want to participate in those spaces. It's just a matter of how and how to make that economically possible.
That's great. So any final words? That was really great.
No, I think you have enough to
I do.
edit.